Welcome to Open House. Today, I have the pleasure of having Kim Parmon on. Kim is one of Portland's top listing agents, and her team is very unique in that each person does an individual role, and Kim's specialty is listing properties and taking them to market. She's joining us today to talk about how she approaches a CMA, Comparative Market Analysis. So, Kim, in your own words, how would you describe what a CMA is?
I'm a lot looser with CMAs than a lot of people. Like it is really a flexible, malleable thing. It is a snapshot at this point in time of what the market is saying about your house. And in a couple weeks, that might be very different. So I'm not somebody that holds really tight to values or to CMA. And my initial approach with clients after our first conversation is to give them a price range and explain to them that we don't actually pick a list price until just before we list, because the most important thing is what is the competition doing the week you hit the market? How are we going to fit in amongst the houses that buyers are going to be comparing you to?
And so pricing then I imagine has a lot to do with the once you decide to go live and you have to you don't commonly advertise a range, right? So
Right.
at some point you get someone to agree to or you come out with a price. What
Yes.
does that look like? How do you arrive at that?
So usually, like 5 to 7 days before we hit the market, I am doing a really detailed look at the active and pending comps. I'm also taking into consideration what's closed, obviously, but we've already looked at all of that with the sellers. So now I'm trying to understand what buyers are seeing when they're touring and how we're going to fit in. And I'm touring those properties myself if I don't have a good sense of what their layouts are or what they're like. And I'm also calling all of the active agents and pending agents in that area with comparable properties just to ask what their activity's been like, um, if they received multiple offers, what kind of offers they received, any insights that they can give me about the house that I can't really see online, and whatever information they'll share with me. And then I'm taking all of that information and I'm compiling a pretty robust email to send to my clients with a breakdown of this is everything that I see in the comps. This is how they look. This is how they compare to you. This is what the agents have told me about these comps. Then I'm reminding them that we always have three choices with pricing. We can price on the lower end of a fair range and hope for competition, which of course is never guaranteed and there's always some risk associated with it. But my market research has shown that there are lots of buyers out there looking for a home like yours. So it seems like the most effective strategy. Or my market research has shown that there are very few buyers out there right now looking for a home like yours. So it seems exceedingly risky to go that route. Or we're picking the price it on the money strategy and hope that we find one buyer who's going to buy at that price quickly. Maybe we'll get lucky, get two buyers. Maybe
Mhm.
it'll take a couple weeks and we'll have to reduce before we find a buyer, but we're trying to nail it. And then the third strategy, which is almost always the wrong strategy in Portland, is to price high and expect to negotiate and expect for it to take time. That's really the best strategy for somebody with a 15-car garage or something
Mhm.
like that, a very unique feature that only one buyer is probably going to really care about. And we're waiting for the guy with the Porsche collection moving up from LA who wants that house. And it's going to take a long time. We're probably going to have to reduce price and we're going to wait until we find that buyer. Oftentimes that's not what we're seeking in Portland, but once I actually send all that information, I always tell them what I would do and which strategy I would pick and where I feel like I would price if this were my home. But I give them options and I let them decide based upon the information I've given them.
Why is going high and expecting to negotiate the wrong strategy here in our market?
Yeah.
Because it seems like the most like commonly accepted way that sales must happen. Like
hmm
this must be how it happens.
hmm
But why is that, do you say, the wrong strategy?
Because Portlanders are a lovely, polite, passive bunch of people, and they do not want to offend. And they will sit and they will wait and they will watch your house and they will watch your house and they'll say, wouldn't that be a cool house if we were able to buy it? And they won't even tour it if it's not a price that they're willing to pay. They will wait for
Mm.
you to reduce price and then they will tour and they will potentially compete with each other as opposed to just seeing it and throwing an offer out. It's a very strange phenomenon, especially for somebody who's only lived in Portland for 11 years, coming from very different markets where that was not common strategy. Like you like a house, you write an offer 200 grand under list price. The seller says, take a hike. Okay, I'll counter back with 50 grand off, and you negotiate and you come to terms. Like that is more normal pretty much everywhere else. But here, part of it is that we've been so conditioned for multiple offers over the last, since I've been licensed, at least in 2015, seen multiple offers pretty much in every market up until this one being very, very common. So buyers still expect it. And actually, I'll take that back. I don't even know that buyers expect it, agents expect it. And so
Mhm.
agents will discourage clients from even touring a property first weekend on market because they're afraid they're going to see multiple offers. Like I see it all the time. They won't even tour first weekend. They'll wait until middle of the second week and then they all start touring. They're still going to end up competing with each other if it's a popular property. They're just going to do it later.
So timing can be such a huge factor on your side.
Yes.
What's really interesting to me about your background is that you came from an auction house, correct? Or where you had a lot of experience working with investors and
Yes.
working with properties that were coming to auction.
Yes.
So, in that way, you must have had to get really good in a short amount of time about knowing what a property was worth
Hmm.
without having a whole lot of information.
Very little information. Yeah.
So, how does that inform your expertise, or how is it different to now when when you have the time and you can get a lot of information and help put a seller's home up for sale?
It's helpful in just the sense that I can really see what it could be very easily. And it's really very easy for me to calculate return on investment. So, for example, I had a listing appointment yesterday where, it's an estate, somebody's mom passed recently, and these folks grew up in the house and they were walking around talking about, like, do we renovate the kitchen? Do we renovate the bathroom? Because they're handy and they have the skill set to do this. So what is the return on investment going to be? And I could tell immediately that it was not going to make any sense for
Mhm.
them to do those items based upon what was selling in the neighborhood and where we were going to max out on values. Like my gut instinct off the bat was like, no, do this list of things. Like there's some prep work to do, but we're not renovating kitchens and bathrooms because the return's not there. It feels really risky. And I'm not looking to get a client 100% return on money they're spending. Like it needs to be at least 300%, or it needs to significantly open up a buyer pool
Mm.
further. It's one or the other. So if there's a massive foundation issue, you're probably not going to see any kind of return on that money, but you'll be able to sell your house. People won't be scared.
And when you're going through and preparing a market analysis, just real nuts and bolts, like how long do you give yourself? Do you time it? Like, because we could sit and look and try to
Yeah.
justify value all day long or look for one more comp. So, how do you choose what goes into it? And are there any general rules that you feel like you can lean into, or is each property truly unique?
I first of all, I'm really trying to figure out who the buyer is and what they're going to be comparing us to because, just I'm like, hey, you have a condo listing and therefore I'm going to look at price per square foot.
Mhm.
That's not effective. It can be if there's been a bunch of comps in the same building and you're comparing there. But, if we have a one bedroom condo in a super walkable area that's really hip and fun and unique, and, it's a newer construction and maybe it's not super trendy looking, but it does have a garage. Like, who is the buyer for this property and what are they also going to be touring? Like, that is always the question. We're not selling homes in a vacuum. Buyers have choices, especially in this market. So I want to know who they are and try to identify a buyer profile. And that's really fun for me, honestly, because I get to see if I'm right.
Mhm.
And it's cool to see, like, oh, I knew that was going to be an engineer. Like I knew that was going to be it's like the game that I play with myself. But really, like, once I identify who that buyer is, sometimes it takes me a lot of time to do a CMA because I really need to walk all the properties in the neighborhood. I can't quite figure out why there's such a wide range of values. And so I have to go see them. And sometimes it's an area that I'm super familiar with and the comps are really straightforward and, but I would say once I'm actually doing the deep analysis for my clients, just before we pick a list price, it's probably 2 hours. It's like
Mm.
a solid 2 hours. And sometimes I have to step away from it because my brain is fried and I need to come back to it because it's a lot of data. I give
Mhm.
them a lot of information.
I am curious because you do just listings. How do you how do you get into the mind of a buyer? Now,
Mm.
you're not in the car with buyers now
Yeah.
every day. So how is it an advantage? How is it a disadvantage to just be on that listing side?
We have an awesome team, and my business partner, Jessica Ledoux, is amazing. And we talk every week about what we're seeing in the market. We have a team meeting, and I get updated information about how buyers are feeling and what she's sensing. And she's super smart. So it's always really helpful and insightful hearing from her. And I come to the Tuesday meetings at Living Room and I hear from other agents about how buyers are feeling and how things are performing. But beyond all of that, I'm a theater major, man. And like that degree doesn't count for much, but it sure gives me insight into how people think and how they operate, and just
Mhm.
and being able to listen to how agents are asking questions or what the concerns are that keep coming up on my current listings. It's a lot easier for me to be like, okay, well, likely we can identify who this buyer is. Like, we know this house needs some work, and therefore it's not going to be these people. It's going to be this type of person who's interested. And, we're looking for somebody who's handy, is probably a first time home buyer, maybe has a construction background. Like, I'm being very granular I'm
Mhm.
not trying to be broad. And I know a lot of people think that that's a mistake, but I find when you can really target marketing towards a specific profile, it doesn't eliminate the other profiles. It just really makes it obvious that it's a good fit for the person that it's most likely a fit for.
You're finding the highest value fit.
Yes.
Or if this is the best fit for them, it's going to be the most value for that buyer as
Right.
well. And what are they willing to pay?
Exactly.
Do you have any general rules or tips for weighing value?
I try to not have blanket rules for anything, honestly. I find it doesn't really help. Like, I know in certain areas it's extremely important to have a garage, and in others it does not matter, I mean, so if I'm unsure about a specific area, I will just ask other agents. The biggest tip I can give anybody is, if you are unsure about values or you don't know how something's going to comp out and you feel like it could be a really wide range, rely on your peers. I find most people are very helpful, as long as you're also helpful, like, you get what you put out there. So be helpful when you can, and then your peers will help you if you need something. I had a very unique listing, about 2 years ago at this point, and I ended up having probably 8 or 9 different agents come through and give a price evaluation, and they were all over the map. It was fascinating. I mean, it was still about a $200,000 swing, and we ended up picking a price kind of right in the middle of where everybody was, but it was really interesting to hear what people had to say.
Because they'll also be touring with their clients and advising them on
Yes.
what value is. And of course, at the end of the day, the value is what the buyer is willing to pay for it.
Right.
But their agents also have a big influence on
Right.
if they're going to show them, if they're not going to show them, if
Mhm.
they think this is a good fit, a good value.
Mhm. Exactly.
That's really smart. Just like using any resource that you have
Yeah.
to try to get as much information to serve the client.
There's no way I could do all of this on my own,
Mhm.
I mean, in just the same way there's no way I could list every home in Portland. I have no desire. There's plenty of work to go around.
How do you present your CMA? Do you make a special appointment? How does that go when someone calls you? What's your process like? Like, hey, Kim, I've heard great things about you. I would like to interview you to
Yeah.
sell my house. Like, walk me through that process.
If I can, I'd like to go see the house and sit with them. And I bring a little folder with like example contract forms and a couple of flyers. Like, I don't really have a robust packet or anything. It's really about me sitting with them and hearing what their needs are and what their concerns are, and seeing how we can help and explaining what we do, and then seeing the home. And I don't ever bring comps with me. I've looked at comps. I know what Zillow says. I know what Redfin says. I know about, what I expect, but I'm never going to know exactly what a house should sell for without actually touring it, because what if the backyard is small and is only accessed through a side gate and you can't get in from
Yeah.
the back of the house? Or what if the upstairs ceiling height is low?
Or that third bedroom, you have to go through the second bedroom to
Right.
get to the third. I've seen
Right.
that many times.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that is like, maybe it's just super dark in there and you wouldn't even
Mhm.
be able to tell because of the last listing photos. So it's important that I tour it in person, and I will take a billion pictures with permission, obviously, walking through. And then I tell them that what my next step is I'm going to go home or back to the office or wherever, and I'm going to look at comps. And within X amount of time, we're either setting a Zoom meeting to go through the comps and prep list together, or I'm sending them an email and I let them choose what they prefer. Some people just want like the big email to look through and process. But I love having that Zoom meeting so I can show them specifically what I'm seeing in the photos, being like, you notice how every house that's staged has sold for $50,000 more. You know, do you notice that? Look, staged living. You know, it's very easy to sell it if I can show them, you know, but I'm basically putting together either a presentation for them or an email for them with a lot of data about the comps. And really, the way that I break that down is I want people to see what is definitely inferior to them. So that's a pricing category. It's smaller stuff or has less bathrooms or is in an inferior condition or busy streets or whatever. This is the inferior category. Then I'm showing them what we don't want to compete against because buyers are going to view us as overpriced if we do. So like everything has a super renovated kitchen and yours is cute, but it's not this. So we don't want to compete with these. Therefore, this is our range. And that's how I give my price range. Like bottoms here, tops here. Hopefully we fall in the top end of this range. Maybe we can even go beyond that if we get really lucky, but it depends on market timing. It depends on prep and it depends on price strategy, you know, and a little bit of luck because we don't control what buyers do.
And do you like to have an idea before you start in on your market analysis of what the client's expectations around value are?
No, because it's not going to change anything and it's going to stress me out. And I don't want it to color what I'm going to say because, you know, my gut is relatively accurate most of the time. I'm not always right. But when I start hearing like, oh, we really need 8. We really need 8 for this or we're not going to sell it. And then I'm looking through the lens of like, how do we get them 8? You know, and I can sell your house for $800,000 no matter what. Of course I can. When?
Yeah.
You know, if it's a $600,000 house, am I calling you in 10 years? Like, I'll tell them that, you know, like it's fine. I can get you 8. I just don't think that's now.
So let's look at other factors.
Right. Right. You know, or if you want to put 150 into a kitchen, but that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. You have to get it back.
Right.
What do you consider your greatest strength as a listing agent? Like, what made you decide, like, you know, this is the lane I'm going to be in because I'm strongest here and I bring this that I see like no one else does?
You know, I loved working with buyers. I didn't really see myself wanting to be a listing agent. And I found it kind of stressful early in my career because I didn't feel like I had a lot of control over how things went. You know, as a buyer's agent, I could address their concerns and, you know, help them see that a house was the right fit. And I have less of the ability to do that as a listing agent. But what I really enjoy about it, honestly, is the challenge. Like, I like figuring out where people are struggling and seeing how I can help and getting them out of their own way. Like, that's really interesting and fun for me. And surprise, I actually am pretty left-brained. I never thought I was. So I like the combination of creativity and data on the listing side. And I think that's probably a pretty unique skill set, is being able to see the big picture and being able to kind of profile who the buyer is and solve problems to get us where we need to be to get people the highest possible return. That's fun.
You are so warm and wonderful. And then when I remember, here is someone with this like really, this depth of experience in investments. I'm like, that's unique. That's
Thank
not
you.
who you think of as the person that's like at the auction house. So you're analytical, but in a way that you also know how to advocate for people and help them move towards their goals.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great.
I try.
What would be your best advice for other agents who are struggling with valuations? Because this is, arguably preparing a CMA for many agents is just, it's really anxiety provoking. It's a struggle. They put a lot of pressure on themselves to nail it, get it just right. And what would you tell a new agent right now, like really trying to hone their skills and do these as best as they can?
Well, I think it's my breaking it down into 3 categories is probably helpful, you know, so it makes it clearer what your goal is, as opposed to I'm trying to pinpoint a dollar amount. I'm never trying to pinpoint a dollar amount. You know, remembering that price is a strategy and reminding sellers that price is a strategy. It's not necessarily value. Sometimes the strategy is listing at value. Like
Mhm.
that's often the strategy in our current, more balanced market, listed value. But in the COVID market, I mean, listing low and driving offers up a
Yeah.
$250,000, it was crazy. It was a different time. But
Mhm.
finding those categories so that you're really honing in on where the range is and putting less pressure on yourself to be exact about it. I think that where we run into trouble is when we make it about, I am the authority and I know everything.
Mhm.
Like, be curious, ask questions, rely on other agents to help you, hear what your sellers have to say and stay on their side of the table. If their concern is we just cannot sell for a dollar less than this because of whatever factor, it doesn't make any sense to move unless we sell for this. Does it make sense to list for them? How do you get them there? When do you do that? It's less about like, okay, well, I have to sell for this and I have to make the comp somehow fit that number.
I loved actually early when you talked about like, I'm going to show you everything that like is less desirable and
Yep.
everything that like we don't want to compete with.
Right.
It gives really clear boundaries. And I also was thinking like how that takes out a lot of second guessing
Mm-hmm.
and wondering that a client might have.
Right.
Because it's clear when like, okay, we're definitely not that. We're definitely not
Yeah.
that. Okay, here where we are. And you can feel really settled into like, this is where we're at.
Yeah. Well, I think that agents sometimes get into trouble not wanting to offend,
Mhm.
and of course we don't want to offend. We want our clients to feel really good the whole time, but it is not helpful to just agree or tell them what they want to hear. And so sometimes in those conversations when I'm explaining, I know somebody's really sensitive about their house. They love their house, they love their aesthetic. It's not necessarily going to be what buyers love.
Mhm.
I sold a house that was lime green
Yeah.
earlier this year, and they loved the house. They loved the fact that it was unique. I had to bring it up as a fact that it was going to be polarizing for
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
And we could make a decision to repaint it, or we can make a decision to try to soften the trim or do other things, or we could leave it and see what happens. But here's the potential consequences. And it's not that I don't love your lime green house. I love color. I think it's great. And I'm glad it makes you happy. But you are the only person that we know is not buying your house.
Yeah.
So what are other buyers going to think?
That's a really great point. Yes. What is one thing you wish you could change about the home selling process, if there was any?
I love the process. I think that we have it down pretty well. I think the one thing that I would change about the job in general is the fact that you just have to work when you work, man,
Mhm.
Like I have to have my phone on me if I have a listing on the market. I have to be able to answer a call within a reasonable time frame if an
Mhm.
agent's calling and asking questions,
Mhm.
or I have to find somebody else to do it for me. And are they going to do it as well? And that's the trick.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of just tethered. Mhm.
Yeah. Which having that awareness is great because you're like, is this the right time for
Yeah,
me to put a house on the market?
right.
Oh, I'm going out of town.
Exactly.
My husband's scheduled for surgery? No.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to plan around it. Mhm.
Yeah. Any other insights you believe are important for creating an effective CMA that you'd want to share?
I'm just going to keep bringing it back to be curious and talk to other people. Like, I think the benefit of a brokerage like Living Room is people really do freely share with each other.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sure there are other places that are like that too, but I just don't find that people are really like jealously guarding information here. And if you are struggling, talk to other people.
Yeah.
Um, and just know that no matter how much you know, there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
So stay open and stay in a learning state, and the rest will fall into place.
What's kind of like you work at the best hospital in town. You have x-rays and you can take those x-rays around to 50 other
Yeah.
incredible experts and be like, what do you see maybe that I'm
Yes.
not?
Right.
And then when you get back to your client, it's like with so much confidence and with good feedback, you
Hmm.
can drive better results.
Yes. Oh my gosh, feedback. Feedback is so important. For buyers agents giving feedback, for listing agents gathering. I mean, I will hunt feedback down and give it to people because I always say putting up a listing is like putting on an event or putting on a play if you're coming from my background. Like you
Mhm.
prepare and you prepare and you prepare and you prepare and you think you're ready and then you put it out there to the world. And it's very nerve-wracking because you just don't know exactly how the world is going to respond. I mean, you
Mhm.
think you have an indication. You feel very prepared. You feel very ready. But sometimes what you think is going to go very well ends up not going as well as you think.
Mhm.
Like how many Broadway shows have had this experience, right? So the feedback you can take and you can then tweak your experience. It is not a static thing where, hey, we picked this price, we picked this strategy, this preparation strategy, and that's it. We're done.
Right.
Somebody has to come buy the house now. Like it is an active process.
Be dynamic.
Yes.
Be willing to respond, and preparing your clients for this is what we're going to do.
Exactly.
Well, this is so fantastic. Thank you. I wish that I had listened to this interview when I started my career, because CMAs used to make me break out into hives practically. I just get so nervous about having to nail it, get it just right. And just even your wisdom about it, price is a strategy.
Yeah.
And so and a strategy you can kind of build behind.
Right.
It's like I'm not getting to this magic number. I'm building a strategy, and that's so wise. Thank you.
Thank you.